My mother-in-law threatened to throw me out after I refused to cook for her birthday party. My daughter was in intensive care. She called me dramatic, like any of this was normal. I did not cry. I acted. But let me go back to where it started. It was a Tuesday evening in the suburbs outside Atlanta. One of those forgettable days that only feels ordinary until it breaks apart. Charlotte was 10. She was deep into competitive gymnastics. The kind of child who did not just love something, but chased it with her whole heart. Our hallway closet looked like a tiny trophy case. Ribbons, plastic, gold, dust, pride I could barely afford, but paid for anyway. Because when your child finds the one thing that makes the world feel right, you do not argue with the cost. She had practiced that night at the sports complex a few blocks from home. Same route as always. Sidewalk, crosswalk, green light, go. The call I got was not from Charlotte. It was from a stranger asking if I was her mother. Then, my whole life tilted. A car had hit her in the crosswalk and kept going. By the time I reached the hospital, my hands were shaking so badly, I could barely sign the clipboard. The nurses moved quickly. They used that calm voice people in hospitals must learn. The kind they use to say terrible things without falling apart. They told me Charlotte was stable. She was under observation. She would stay overnight in ICU. There was no dramatic soundtrack, no movie scene. Just fluorescent lights, stale coffee, and me staring at my phone like it might suddenly hand me a miracle. Then Preston called. My husband. The man I had married 1 year earlier because I thought I had chosen stability. Someone steady. Someone who showed up to meets and clapped for Charlotte like he had always been there. His name flashed on my screen. I answered right away. But it was not Preston speaking first. It was Evelyn Carter. Not how is Charlotte? Not are you all right? Just Claire. Where are you? I said I was at the hospital, like that should have explained everything. There was a short pause. Then her tone sharpened. Preston told me she is fine, stable, and you are still acting like the world is ending. My birthday is tomorrow. Now 60. People are coming. I already told everyone you would cook. For a second, I could not even answer her. My 10-year-old daughter was in intensive care after a hit and run, and somehow Evelyn had decided the real crisis was whether her chicken would be seasoned on time. She kept going, talking faster now, listing side dishes, oven timing, serving trays, and all the things she could not trust anyone else to do properly. I finally managed to say the words out loud. My daughter was hit by a car. Evelyn let out one of those impatient little breaths she used whenever reality interrupted her plans. You are so dramatic, she said, like I had told her the florist was late. Then she used her favorite weapon, the word she liked almost as much as control. Eviction. Evelyn did not actually have the legal power to remove me from the house, but she loved speaking as if she did, and Preston had always allowed that illusion to stand. If you do not come tonight and help, she snapped, do not bother coming back to that house. I will not have my son dragged down by a woman who cannot even show up for family. Behind her, I heard Preston. Soft voice. Calm tone. The reasonable one people trust. Mom, stop, he said gently. Then to me, Claire, please just calm her down. Charlotte is stable. The doctor said she is okay. He said it as if intensive care was some minor inconvenience. As if I were being emotional for refusing to leave my child and go arrange mashed potatoes for a birthday dinner. Something inside me went very still. I did not yell. I did not beg. I did not cry. I just said no. Evelyn reacted, like I had struck her. Preston did not raise his voice either. Not yet. He only said that we would talk later, and that I should try to rest. Rest. In a hospital waiting room, while my mother-in-law threatened to push me out of my own life, because her party might be understaffed. Later, I found out why Evelyn had sounded so confident. Preston had told her it was nothing serious, that I was overreacting. Of course he had. That night, I sat under hospital lights, holding on to the edge of a plastic chair and staring at every closed door like one of them might open with an answer I could survive. I still thought the worst thing in my life had already happened. I was wrong. Charlotte woke the next day without any dramatic gasp, just a slow blink and a tired little voice saying, "Mama." I leaned over her bed, took her hand, and tried to smile like I was not made of shattered glass. She swallowed, stared up toward the ceiling for a second, then said something so quietly I almost thought I imagined it. "Preston did it." My whole body went cold. I asked her what she meant, but the truth is I already heard it clearly the first time. Her fingers tightened around mine. She said she had been standing at the crosswalk waiting for the light. She felt someone come up behind her. She did not turn around. Then she felt two hands shove hard into her back. She fell forward. At the last second, she turned her head and saw his face. My brain tried to protect me. Concussion, confusion, fear. No, misunderstanding. Every desperate excuse rose up at once, and every one of them died when I looked at her. Charlotte did not sound confused. She sounded certain. She said he was wearing the dark jacket with the hood and the white sneakers. The room felt suddenly too small to breathe in. A few minutes later, Detective Grant Sullivan came in. Mid-40s, tired eyes, the kind of calm that belongs to someone who has seen too much to waste emotion. He listened without interrupting. He asked Charlotte to tell him again from the beginning, gently and carefully, and she repeated the same details with the same certainty. Then he turned to me and said they needed to document everything properly. He told me they would need access to Preston's clothes, shoes, phone, anything that could place him near that crosswalk. I nodded because by then I was no longer thinking in full emotions. I was operating on one setting. Do what has to be done. 2 officers drove me back to the house. Not because I was dangerous, because Preston might be. That was the first moment the place stopped feeling like home. The first moment it looked like a set, built around a lie. Detective Grant Sullivan asked whether I consented to a search of the house, and I said yes immediately. Whatever privacy Preston might have claimed ended the second Charlotte said he pushed her into traffic. The dark jacket was exactly where she said it would be, hanging by the entry like it belonged to a normal man living a normal life. One of the officers lifted it carefully. On the sleeve was a single thread, nearly nothing, but the color matched Charlotte's school uniform. In the bedroom, on top of the bed, sat a printed movie ticket, a paper alibi laid out too neatly to feel innocent. On the kitchen table there was a half-empty bottle of whiskey. By itself, it meant nothing. In that room, it felt like nerve. Then we found Preston's phone, face down, abandoned like it had been dropped in a hurry. Detective Sullivan asked if I could unlock it. I did not want to. I did it anyway. The password was our wedding date, which felt obscene in a way I still cannot fully explain. The last messages on the screen were not subtle. Everything is ready. The girl needs to disappear. Tomorrow, it is done. I stared until the words blurred. Then the detective took the phone from me, like it could burn through skin. He said it was going to forensic extraction and told me I should not stay in the house that night. Before we left, I opened a desk drawer, looking for Charlotte's insurance card. Instead, I found a folder I had never seen before. Inside was a life insurance policy on Charlotte for $250,000. Preston was listed as the beneficiary. Under that was a power of attorney that supposedly carried my signature, authorizing the sale of the house. It was not my signature. It was a careful imitation. Beneath that were printed listings for condos in Miami. One page marked in red pen with the words "after the problem is handled." It was all there. Not just cruelty. A plan. A future built on my daughter's body. My forged name, and Preston's belief that he could speak softly enough to hide a monster. That night, I went to Meredith's place and did not sleep at all. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying Preston's hospital voice in my head. Charlotte is stable. Do not jump to conclusions. Try to rest. He had not been soothing me. He had been trying to cover the truth before it had the chance to breathe. The next morning, Detective Grant Sullivan called and told me they had picked Preston up. He denied everything, of course. He said he had been at the movies and even had a pre-purchased electronic ticket ready to support it. Evelyn backed him up too, swearing he had been home until around 7. His attorney, Spencer Whitmore, moved quickly, all clean lines and polished confidence, trying to turn my daughter into the weak point. A confused child, a traumatic event, a vivid imagination, a grieving girl with a dead biological father. It was vile, and it was exactly the kind of defense men like Preston hide behind. Then, the private calls from jail began. He kept his voice low and controlled, still trying to sound reasonable. He told me I needed to stop talking to the police. I told him I was not the one talking. Charlotte was. There was a pause, and then the edge slipped through. He said I did not want to make this worse. That was the thing about Preston. Even his threats came dressed like advice. 2 days later, I went back to the house to get clothes and a few essentials. My key did not work. The locks had been changed. I stood there staring at the door, still trying to process that level of audacity, when a woman leaned out from an upstairs window, like she had been waiting for me. Vanessa. Bright lipstick, bright hair, one hand resting on her pregnant belly like it was a crown. She smiled down at me and said Preston told her I had moved out. Then she added that this was their place now. I could barely speak. She waved a stack of papers and said she had documents. I called the police, but when the patrol officer arrived, he did exactly what officers always do when property and family law get tangled together. He sighed and called it a civil issue. He said if Vanessa claimed authorization and the locks had been changed by my husband, they could not force entry without a court order. He offered to stand by while I collected essential items if she allowed it. Vanessa allowed it because she wanted the pleasure of watching me walk through that house like a displaced guest. I packed one bag with shaking hands and left, because pride did not matter at that point. Charlotte did. Evidence did not arrive in some dramatic rush. It came in small, ugly pieces that kept adding up until the truth became too heavy to deny. The first thing Detective Grant Sullivan showed me was the surveillance footage. We sat in a dim office while he laid printed stills on the desk, like cards from a cruel game. One grainy frame showed a timestamp. 7:43 at night. A man in a dark jacket approached a small figure from behind. Then, a sharp movement. Charlotte went down directly into the path of the vehicle. The face was not clear, but the build, the posture, the clothes, all of it matched. The detective tapped the image and said it was not enough on its own, but it supported her statement. Then the lab results came back. Fibers from the jacket were consistent with Charlotte's school uniform. Road grit matched the intersection. The white sneakers carried a dirt pattern that lined up with the crosswalk area. In the jacket pocket, they found a gas station receipt from 2 blocks away, stamped 10 minutes before Charlotte was hit. It listed cigarettes, 1 pack. Preston had not smoked in 5 years. So either he had suddenly taken the habit back up, or he bought them on purpose to create a reason for being near the scene. The alibi he tried to build only ended up fixing him more firmly in place. Then, Detective Sullivan told me about Donna Whitaker, my older neighbor, the kind of woman who notices everything and stores it forever. She had seen Preston leave around 7. He told her he was going to the movies, but she said he was not dressed like someone going to relax. He looked like a man heading towards something. Then she remembered something else. A week before the incident, she had heard him yelling through the wall. Not ordinary stress. Something darker. She said he shouted, "Because of you. She never pays attention to me." Charlotte had been crying. That was not frustration. That was resentment with a countdown. By then I already knew this was not a moment of rage. It was preparation. The final piece came from someone who did not even realize he was carrying it. A quiet boy named Hudson Blake, from Charlotte's school, told his mother he had seen a man hanging around the gym schedule board for several days. The man had been taking photos and asking what time practice ended. Hudson's mother called Detective Grant Sullivan, and when they showed Hudson a picture, he identified Preston immediately. He had told the boy he was picking up his niece. Charlotte does not have cousins. What Preston had was a plan. Spencer Whitmore still pushed for bail, of course. He stood there in court describing Preston as a devoted family man with deep roots in the community and no criminal history, while Evelyn sat behind him, nodding as if denial could become evidence if she believed in it hard enough. Then the florist arrived at Meredith's apartment just after midnight. Yes, a florist. As if terror needed ribbon to feel complete. The delivery was a funeral wreath, black ribbon, gold lettering. See you soon. Inside was a note in block letters. Stay quiet or you are next. I did not need an expert to recognize Preston's style. Rachel photographed everything, every angle, every detail, and Detective Sullivan sent it straight to the district attorney's office. At the bail hearing, Assistant District Attorney Caroline Hayes did not need to raise her voice. She slid the photographs to the judge like she was presenting an invoice. She called it exactly what it was: witness intimidation from a defendant already in custody. Judge Victoria Langford studied the images, then looked at Preston, then at his attorney, and denied bail without hesitation. Outside the courthouse, Vanessa tried to shout to reporters with a handmade sign demanding Preston be freed. No one cared. The evidence was already stacking too high. Even strangers could see it. Evelyn stood off to the side watching her son through the glass, and for the first time she looked uncertain. Not sorry, not ashamed, just confused that the world was no longer obeying her version of it. Evelyn did not stay uncertain for long. A few days later, she barged into Charlotte's hospital room, not carrying flowers, not carrying an apology, only carrying rage. She pointed all of it at me. She said her son was sitting in jail because I could not keep my mouth shut. A nurse stepped in, but Evelyn brushed past her like the room belonged to her. Charlotte's eyes widened, and I moved between them immediately. I told Evelyn to get out. She leaned in close, eyes bright with that special kind of cruelty that always mistakes itself for righteousness. She hissed that Charlotte was fine, that Preston had said she was fine, and that I was trying to ruin him. That was the part Evelyn could never accept. If Charlotte was fine, then Evelyn did not have to feel guilty for the way she had acted. If I was dramatic, then she did not have to look at herself. Security removed her, but not before Charlotte squeezed my hand and whispered that Evelyn hated her. I swallowed hard and told my daughter the truth in the gentlest way I could. I said Evelyn did not know how to love without trying to control people, and that none of this was Charlotte's fault. The harder truth was about Preston. He knew exactly what he was doing, and eventually he would have to sit in court and watch every careful lie fall apart. The trial did not move quickly, but it moved thoroughly. By then I had learned that justice is often less dramatic than people think. It is not thunder and shouting. It is paperwork, testimony, waiting, and then one day the wall gives way. The courthouse smelled like old wood and failing air conditioning. The jury sat there listening while my life was taken apart piece by piece. Charlotte testified. She looked so small in that witness chair, but her voice stayed steady. Spencer Whitmore tried the usual angles. He asked whether she could be confused because of the injury. He asked whether trauma might have changed her memory. Charlotte looked at him with a calm that made him seem smaller than his expensive suit. She said no. She remembered. Then he tried a different route and brought up her biological father, talking as if grief could explain away an attempted murder. Before he could finish, Charlotte quietly said Preston had once told her she should never have been born. The whole courtroom went still. After Charlotte said those words, even the bailiff shifted. The silence in that courtroom felt alive. Then another witness came in, Nathan Brooks, the driver of the SUV that hit Charlotte. He had fled that night and disappeared for months, terrified that leaving the scene would send him to prison. But guilt has a way of dragging people back into the light. His hands were shaking when he testified. He said he saw it in his rearview mirror. A man in a dark jacket came up behind Charlotte and shoved her into the road. Nathan slammed the brakes, panicked, and drove away. Then he pointed across the courtroom. "That is him," he said, looking right at Preston. Preston did not look calm anymore. His jaw locked tight, like he was trying to bite down on the truth itself. After that came the forensic testimony. Avery Collins walked the jury through the fibers, the road grit, the dirt pattern on the shoes, and the receipt from the gas station. Dr. Graham Bennett explained Charlotte's injuries in clear, measured language. They were consistent with a forceful push from behind, not a stumble, not clumsiness, not a child losing balance. The jury listened, then left to deliberate. When they returned, the foreperson stood and said the word Preston had been outrunning since the beginning. Guilty. Sentencing came a few weeks later. By then, Preston's polished husband act had worn down to threads. Judge Victoria Langford spoke about premeditation, betrayal, and the horror of a child being targeted inside her own family. Spencer Whitmore leaned close to Preston, likely telling him to show remorse. Instead, something inside him snapped. He stood and shouted, "Yes!" He said he did it. Gasps moved through the courtroom. Even Evelyn made a strangled sound, like her body was rejecting what her ears had just heard. But Preston kept going. He said Charlotte ruined everything. He said I only cared about her school, her trophies, her gymnastics, like he did not exist. Then he said what he had really wanted. A normal life, a real family, not raising someone else's child. He even said Miami out loud, almost proudly. The insurance money, selling the house, starting over. It all came out in one ugly stream, motive and confession together, with nowhere left to hide. Judge Victoria Langford did not look surprised. Judges rarely do. She looked tired, finished with him, and completely certain. She sentenced Preston to 12 years in state prison. Deputies moved in at once. Preston turned toward Vanessa like he still expected loyalty to save him. Vanessa stared back, slid the ring off her finger with slow, deliberate cruelty, and dropped it on the courtroom floor. The sound it made against the tile was sharp and small, but it felt like the end of everything he had planned. Evelyn stood there looking at her son, as if she had never really seen him before. In a way, she had not. She had spent too long loving the version he sold her. 3 months after the verdict, Evelyn sold the house. Not immediately, not when denial still had somewhere to hide, but after the trial, the evidence, and Preston's own mouth destroyed every excuse she had left. Around the same time, I sat in a title office, signing papers of my own. I sold our house too, not because I wanted to, but because recovery is expensive and out-of-network pediatric rehabilitation might as well be a second mortgage. The buyers were a young couple with 2 children. The mother stepped into Charlotte's old room and said their daughter also did gymnastics and was the same age. My throat tightened. In one corner were boxes filled with Charlotte's trophies and medals. Not because she failed, but because she had outgrown the need to prove she mattered through them. I picked up a small stack of duplicate medals from local meets and handed them over. I told the woman to give them to her daughter and tell her a champion once lived there. Charlotte's recovery was not dramatic. It was steady. Appointments, therapy, dairy, learning to trust movement again. Eventually school, friends, and running outside like the world had not nearly taken her away from me. She recovered fully for ordinary life. The only thing she lost was the elite path. No national team dream, no punishing competition future. Dr. Graham Bennett said recreational gymnastics was fine, but elite competition was not worth the risk. Charlotte accepted that better than I did. One day she smiled and told me she could still do flips, just not for judges. That was my girl. Still finding a way to fly. A few months later, on a rainy evening at Meredith's apartment, I heard soft footsteps outside the door. and then a knock that sounded too hesitant to be danger. I looked through the peephole and saw Evelyn. No sharp haircut, no perfect makeup, no posture that said she had come to win. She was standing there in the hallway, holding an envelope with both hands, like it weighed far more than paper should. Through the door, she called my name, and her voice cracked. She said it was for Charlotte. She said she had sold the house. She said she had not known. I did not open the door, not because I wanted to punish her, but because some doors do not reopen after they have been slammed on your child. I stood there listening while she cried in that restrained way proud people cry when shame finally outruns denial. She said she believed Preston. She admitted she had been cruel to me. She admitted she had been cruel to Charlotte. I kept one hand on the doorknob and breathed through the anger, the grief, and the exhaustion that still lived in my chest. Then Evelyn slid the envelope under the door and walked away into the rain. I waited until the hallway went quiet before I picked it up. The money inside was not for me. It was for Charlotte. And if Evelyn's house had become rehab payments, then that was where it belonged. 6 months after the trial, Charlotte and I moved about 600 miles away. New city, new apartment, new school. At first the walls were bare, but slowly they filled with photographs and ordinary life. I did not erase the past completely. I edited it. Every family photo that once included Preston now had a clean, empty space where his face used to be, like a missing piece no one wanted back. One evening, there was another knock at the door. This time it was a neighbor named Paige, warm smile, homemade pie in her hands, with her son Wesley peeking out from behind her. Charlotte came to the door in one of her old gymnastics hoodies, hair still damp from a shower, and smiled back. No limp. No fear. Just my daughter standing there steady and ordinary, which had become the most beautiful thing in the world. Later that night, as I tucked her in, she asked softly whether Preston would ever understand what he had done. I kissed her forehead and told her maybe. But that was not our job anymore. Outside, the world was quiet. Inside, so were we. Not because nothing happened, but because we survived it. And this time, nobody got to evict us from our own life.